All right. Another Israel video. I've done two of these already, and I thought I pretty much said all I was going to or needed to, and wouldn't be making this one now if it weren't for yet another goofy full-page ad from FLAME, an acronym standing for Facts and Logic About the Middle East, a phrase which is pretty incendiary for a group purporting to look for peace. Not a surprise that as I'm reading this phrase, it turns out to be a complete antonym. It's self-symptomatic of the rot at the root of the whole tired mess. Myths about Israel and the Middle East #2 appeared yet again in The Nation magazine for February 28, 2011, on page 23. It even has the gall to insert a quote reading, "It is in our national interest that reality, not myths, govern our policy." Well, what are more of these myths that we're asked not to believe? The ad rhetorically queries and goes on to list them here. I count 1, 2, 3, 4 this time. Running down the list, we read that the Arabs of Israel are a persecuted minority, a myth to be discredited. Yeah, well, probably no more or less than Jews themselves in Soviet days, with all legal rights formally intact, but it's in the informal everyday details where the devils always lurk. Anyway, I won't go through all of these point by point because that will take up more video time than it's worth. The gist of these is that Israel has always wanted peace. The Arabs have rejected all Israeli offers of peace. The ad conveniently forgetting Israel's relations with Jordan, Lebanon, and Egypt. That Arab hostility remains unabated and implacable, and that if Israel were to relax its grip on the OTs, the whole region would go up like a shish kebab. Well, we don't really need to go into the details of all of these to see what's wrong with the essential concept here. And to do that, all we need is to follow FLAME's advice and to re-examine endlessly related cliches and myths, because it is in our interest that reality govern our policy. And the reality is that hostility was embedded in the whole Zionist enterprise from the World Zionist Organization's first Aliyah, or migration, in the very idea of a state of and for Jews to be planted in the middle of the Arab world. The very defiance of this exclusion guaranteed hostility, making compromise dangerous for any Arab that wished to seek it. Just as it's inevitable that a white power state in southern Africa would provoke its neighbors, that a communist state 90 miles from U.S. waters would generate bitter hostility in the Western Hemisphere, that a Mormon state legalizing polygamy, not polyandry, but that too, within the U.S. would bring federal wrath on Utah territory. In such a situation, it's really impossible to pin all blame on the other side for being hostile, when the very nature of the regime in question is a conscious, defiant act of rejection and provocation. Now, those establishing all these regimes will use the logic of self-defense, and in context, this has its reasonable aspect. After all, without apartheid, a white minority can't thrive on black labor. Without the Soviet umbrella, a socialist revolution in Cuba isn't going to survive its pissing contest with the Colossus of the North. Without the Jewish conquest of Palestine and turning Israel into an armed fortress, Jews would be as vulnerable a minority there as they were in Europe. But there's absolutely no justification for playing the injured innocent victim card, and for playing dumb as to the reasons for the opposite side's hostility. Every Afrikaner I ever heard of didn't have to scratch in his beard wondering why he didn't dare turn his back on the coffers. Fidel Castro says in nearly every speech that the Yankees will never forgive us for making a socialist revolution in the Americas. Only Israel acts like the wounded innocent and expects, demands, that the rest of the world play along with this. So what is the solution for Israel? Well, the last time someone tried a final solution, it didn't work out so well for anybody. Maybe we should just avoid that very concept. And in fact, I think things have gone so far that the whole mess is not going to be resolved in some dramatic peace breakthrough or all-out war. The solution, in my view, will be not so much a resolving as a dissolving. That is, that each passing generation will grow so tired of the games that the pretense will lose its glamour, its rationale. So fed up with the wasted human energy, as well as the rest of the region's natural and economic resources, that is simply going to run out of gas, steam, or any other fuel analogy you like. It will just deflate like a balloon, like a 90-year-old man's erection, because organic matter just loses its texture and natural tension after a certain period. And newer generations are going to rest uneasy in the confines like new wine inside old wineskins, to use another cliche of the Middle East. So rather than thrash around for some impossible peace process, I see the only real hope is that the status quo be kept from imploding long enough for everyone in Israel, the Arab world, and the United States to grow sick of it and find it in their best interest to look for really new approaches. Some wine of glasnost to replace the flat sour grapes of wrath contained in Flame's faded label. A knock at the phone. I'd better go answer that. Hello? Gorbachev, you're back? You have more advice to give on glasnost, Mikhail Sergeyevich? Well, I'm not sure you ought to be the one offering recommendations, considering you lost 1/6 of the Earth's land surface, but go ahead. Peace won't come? Hold on a minute. Let me change sides here. Peace won't come until it's cheaper than war. Now, that is good advice. By the time the U.S. government treats Israeli subsidies like it does its own budget, everyone will be broke and still paying for it.